Welcome back to Venus Improbable Dream, hoping technology cooperates this time. Haruka's house, her thoughtful parents, their warm family dynamic, the whole thing has been popping up in my head every now and then since I got home from my visit. It had almost culminated in me looking my parents in the eye properly for the first time in however long. It has been quite the experience. You know, a lot of these games talk about like people's parents and stuff like that, and I'm always worried that one day I'm going to get to a point where my parents think I'm talking about them when it's just me talking about the game and stuff like that. I feel like Haruka had some of calm along last night. Like I was seeing her without her inhibitions for the first time. In fact, the moment I felt that most intensely had been the music box. Haruka must love that thing so much. I felt as though she'd shown me something so personal that it went beyond just casual friendship. Like I reached a level with her that none of her previous friends had. I can't be sure of that, but, well, I don't know. It just felt like she was bearing her soul to me, or something. Now you gotta show something to her which is very precious to you, something that you hold dear. Sometimes when she plays the flute she gets a certain look on her face, something resembling real happiness. She had that look when she'd be playing the music box, but magnified to a huge extent. I guess it just really brings her joy, knowing that it's a shame that she hasn't been able to find out the origin of the tune it plays. I'm sure if she were able to learn it, it'd be her favourite piece to perform. Now then, will you be the hero, protagonist, and try and find out the author of this very piece of music? Going with the clue Venus. As soon as I think this, another memory of the box comes to the forefront of my mind, an image rendering itself onto my mental screen. Venus, that's right. It had said Venus on the underside of the lid. Thinking about it, I'm not sure if Haruka is even aware of that. Nope, the text had been printed on, or printed in some way rather than carved or embossed. Its surface has been completely flat, blending with the wood of the box, so it would have been obvious on touch alone. Unless one of her parents told her about it, but then, well, I just feel like she had mentioned it. She's so fond of it that I imagine she'd want to treasure everything there is to know about it. Perhaps no one's really noticed it before. Will you come in to try and solve this newfound discovery? Discarding my controller for a moment, I swing my chair around to face my laptop, wanted to at least attempt to abate my curiosity. There's got to be something online that relates to this. There has to be. I type Venus into the search bar. Yeah, that is too generic. You gotta go more specific with your searches. Yeah, I practically slapped my hand to my forehead in exasperation. One or two things are going to crop up. Number one, the goddess called Venus, and number two, the planet Venus. Of course, everything that appears has to do with the planet Venus. Should have seen that coming. I changed my search term to Venus Song. What comes up is an array of what seems to be pop songs titled Venus. They're all by Western singers. I click on the videos for a few of them, but none of them sound remotely like the melody the music box had played. Venus classical music. Maybe I'm getting the wrong idea here. Perhaps the word doesn't have anything to do with the box's tune. It might be related to the person who made it, or what shop or company sold the box in the first place. I knew it. If it's not one thing, it's another thing. I'll try one more time. I delete my search again, altering it to Venus Music. A different set of results show up. This time, the first hit is a list of apparently all songs of pieces of music that has the word Venus in their title. Feeling as though that might be a bit more useful, I click it. Oh man, this list is huge! Who knew there were so many songs called Venus? This is crazy. I don't have the time to scour through all of this. Are you sure? How did it go back here? I didn't press anything, but it just went there. I must have pressed something by accident. Losing my patience somewhat, I slouch in my chair, a little put off. Abandoning the task, I swirl around to pick up my controller again, returning to the level I'd been struggling to be. But you're not gonna be able to do it. Yes, I found myself pausing my thumb hovering over the button. The sight of Haruka's peaceful face as she listened to the little box won't leave my mind. I don't know why I care so much, because she's your friend. But I just feel as though I should help her discover the true origin of that melody, if I can. I guess it's another friendship payback thing. I know that I've done a couple of things for her recently, but I still want to keep making an effort somehow. I just know she'd be over the moon if we found something to do with the box's song. Dropping my controller for a second time, I go back to my laptop, resigning myself to scrolling through the many pages of the music directory, checking out almost every single piece related to the word Venus. And were your endeavours fruitful? I'm not sure how long I sat there for, filtering through song after song with no joy. Specify your search. Venus classical song. Venus classical music. Venus manufacturer classical music. Something along those lines. I'm not sure how long I sit there for, filtering through song after song with no joy. Most of the things I'd never expect something as demure as a music box to play. I highly doubt its tune has been inspired by any of these. I'm starting to think that I should just give up when another entry catches my eye. It's a classical piece this time, rather than some dumb pop thing. Seems more promising, I guess. Specify your search by genre if you can. Expanding the article, I see that it's by a composer called Gustav Holst. Never heard of him. His most famous work appears to be something called the Planet Suite. Ah, looks like he wrote a piece of each planet in our solar system, so of course there's one of Venus. With nothing to lose, I search for a track in another tab, finding a recording of just the Venus section, and give it a listen. The introduction is so quiet I find myself tuning the volume all the way up to the maximum. I think that's a mistake. Hang on, does that sound? Pause it for a moment. I try to mentally summon the box's melody back into my head. What did it sound like? Ah, yeah, I remember it now. That's how it went. I hit play on the video to the Heist piece again, and the more I listen, the more the two melodies now dancing in my mind sync up. This is it. It has to be it. I swear this is the same tune. Archive it, bookmark it, save the track, save the author, save the date, save whatever, and inform Haruka somehow of this discovery. Have I really found it? Haruka would go mad, in a good way. In fact, knowing how much of a big deal it would be to her is making me feel excited by extension. Even though it seems to be a somewhat well-known classical piece, I'm getting the feeling that Haruka probably doesn't know it already. She's definitely well versed in the basics of classical music at least, but at the same time I guess all she knows is whatever her parents have bought for her, if they've never happened to pick anything by Heist. And what I do know is that I'm pretty sure that this Planet Suite piece has the same melody as one her music box produces. That alone is great news, because Haruka will finally be able to hear it in its original context. Now that's a problem, because we've already mentioned in this game in the past that certain pieces have been alterated to be in different titles under different composers, but the original composer will always be the same. So the question is the Planet Suite the original one, or is it just an extension of another one, which could either be one that has already been extended or one that is the original? That alone is great news, because Haruka will finally be able to hear in its original context an 8-minute long full orchestra classical piece. The only way we can go one better is to find some sheet music for it, and then she'd be able to learn to play it herself, which is what appears to be her ultimate goal. Now here's something which will really surprise her. If you don't specify the music itself, but acquire a sheet music piece with Braille in which Haruka can understand, don't tell her the music itself that she needs to play, but just be able to sync with the notes, and then she plays the music. Now that would be very enlightening. There's got to be a score of it somewhere, although we need it in Braille too. What about the city bookstore? Their Braille section had been quite a bit bigger than the school's library. I'd be somewhat impressed if we'd gone there to look for a piece Haruka had wanted before. If anywhere will have it, They might. However, the thought of inviting Haruka to visit the store with me without being certain of it in advance isn't good. If they end up not having it in stock, then it would have been a wasted trip, as well as a complete letdown for her. If you don't specify what it is, then it's not exactly a letdown. If we could find out beforehand, like Googling it or beaning it, or Boogling it, I don't know, a in-game version of Google and Bing. Before I've really formulated a plan in my head, I start typing into the search bar again, pulling up the bookstore's website. There's a phone number here for customer inquiries. I guess I could call them and ask if they could check for it. I pick up my phone but find myself halting. Nerves bubbling in my stomach. I don't make phone calls, or hardly ever. I dial the number quickly before I lose my nerve. Sometimes you gotta do things in rapid succession. It doesn't ring for long before somebody answers. Awkwardly and with much more of a shaky voice than I'd like, I ask if they have any Braille sheet music of the Venus piece in stock, specifying that we need it arranged for a flute. I'm left on hold for a minute or two while the store attendant goes to check, and then the generic music stops abruptly. Oh dear, yep, the generic music for like phone calls and stuff like that. Like if you're in a queue or something like that and you get stuck listening to this god-forsaken boring piece of music that is relaxing but gets boring after the 100th time that you listen to it. Yes, we have copies of a Braille sheet music for the entire Planet Suite here, and there are flute versions of it too. Are you looking to purchase or reserve one, sir? They have it! I'm a little skittish over my nerves, but struggling through the cloud of awkwardness in my mind, I realised that reserving a copy would be a good idea. Haruka and I could go and pick it up together. But wouldn't it be better if you brought it first, like a present? Without even thinking about the fact I'm lining myself up for another potentially uncomfortable trip into the city, I respond, yes, I'll reserve a copy, please, to pick up tomorrow. I give her my basic details and she confirms that the book has been put aside in my name, available to pick up anytime during store opening hours tomorrow. I thank her and hang up. Letting out a breath, I didn't realise I'd been holding. Well, at least say bye. I guess I've done it. Now all I've got to do. I start hammering at the keys on my phone, composing a message in my adrenaline-fueled fervour. This is crazy. I can't believe I'm being this forward, but I did want to give back to Haruka in some way. But how are you going to tell her how you discovered what her favourite piece is? Is it on the music box? And how did you know what was on the music box if you don't say that you, behind her back, picked it up to see what it was? What was the piece's name? This is very improbable right now. But this is a dream worth going through. I know we just saw each other last night, but would you come to the city bookstore with me tomorrow? I have a surprise for you. I send it hoping that it's not too sudden. I realise that keeping her in the dark for now might have made the whole thing seem a bit daunting to her. But I kinda don't want to give it away just yet. I can already imagine her face when she realises what I'm showing her. The phone's still in my hand. I open reply as soon as it comes in. What would we be doing? What sort of surprise? As I suspected, she's unsure. I type back in a frenzy. Don't worry, it'll be just like last time we went to the bookstore, just the two of us. There's something I want us to find. I feel like that's still a little cryptic, but I really don't want to give too much away. I send it away and wait for a reply. Just say that you're looking for a book of sorts, but you just want some confirmation. Okay, same time as last time. Yes, for a moment there I wasn't sure she was going to agree. Perfect, I'll see you there. I put down my phone, letting out the last of my adrenaline in a large Excel. I sort of can't believe that I was that productive in looking into Haruka's interests. Because you both are friends. I'm not really sure what came over me, other than the desire to pay my friend back for all the help she's given me. Although in a way maybe it's more than that. I guess Haruka's love of classical music is rubbing off on me somewhat, or at the very least her enthusiasm for that little box coupled with her clear disappointment that she can't learn its song for herself has moved me, in a way. It'd just be great for her to be properly reunited with a piece that she doesn't realise exists, but whose essence she holds incredibly dear. If I can help her do that, then, well, I'll try to consider my debt paid. It's not a debt to be paid if it's a friendship, Because when it comes to friendships, you do things for your friends, and your friends do things for you. But it's not like, well, if I do this one thing, then you've got to do this thing, because that's how debts work. Nah, this isn't like a binding contract or anything like that. Friends do things for each other, no matter how many times or how small or large each thing that one does. Is that the best solution though? What if Haruka gets here early and therefore she can't find you? Yeah, I'll do that. Oh no, I wouldn't do that. I spy a small line waiting at the desk, but thankfully it's moving pretty fast, so I join it awkwardly, keeping my eyes on the floor. This isn't nice, but it should be over soon. After a minute, I get called forward and manage to stutter out my reservation details. As the store attendant goes to fetch the book, I feel my phone vibrate in my pocket, checking it momentarily, glad to have a reason to look down and see a message from Haruka. I'm heading to the store now, about a minute away. Perfect. Still waiting for the book. I text back. Okay, see you then. I shove my phone back into my pocket as the store attendant returns, and I pay for the book. I might as well buy it for Haruka as a present. There we go. It's not a borrow, it's a purchase. Well done, man. This is a great step forward for you. Or if she really doesn't want me to be out of pocket, we can just figure that out later. It's more important that we get it first. Nodding timidly at the store attendant once the transaction is complete, I scurry back out of the store and onto the street. That was good timing, like I hoped. As I reached the spot I'd been standing in before, I noticed Haruka further up the street, heading this way. As she approaches, I make sure to call out to her softly. Hey, I'm here. She relaxes once she hears my voice, approaching me with a smile, although there seems to be some confusion behind it. Kakeru, hi. Were you waiting long? No, not at all. I wasn't waiting long at all. I went inside. Nah, I would never say that, for goodness sakes. That makes me sound like I'm loitering around for so long, but I decided going without my friend. She nods and continues to gaze in my direction inquisitively. So what are we doing here? You've been pretty secretive about this. She smiles as she says this, so I know that she's not too worried. But part of me still feels guilty for dragging her out here without explaining anything. That's the beauty of a surprise, that you're left in the shroud a little bit. You know that you are here, but why are you here? However, knowing what now lies in this bag in my right hand spurs me on. Yeah, so I just wanted to keep it a surprise. I think you'll really like it. She cocks her head to the side curiously, clearly still baffled, and I turn back towards the store's automatic doors. Shall we go in? Indeed we are. Once inside, we head to the sheet music section as we'd done last time we came in. And be counted on it being as quiet as then too. And to my relief, it's even quieter. God, I suddenly love Sundays. Yeah, Sundays are a good day for quietness all round. Like, weekdays are busy because people are trying to buy something for either their university work or their work. Or on Saturdays is when all the families are usually out and stuff like that. But then again, you see a lot of families out on Sundays as well. Glancing around, I see a small couch sitting near one of the racks of books, and figure that it might be a good place for us to be, considering what I'm about to do next. There's a couch just over here. Shall we sit down? We're not looking for anything? Not this time. Here, I'll show you. Yes, walking slowly to ensure that she can follow my lead, I head over to the couch, directing her as to where it is as well as I can. And we both take a seat. Not wanting to drag this out any longer, I slip the book out of the bag. I've brought some sheet music for you. I got it while I was waiting for you to get here. Her eyebrows shoot up immediately. You bought it? I have to pay you back. You don't have to. It's not just any piece of music. What do you mean? Aha! What are you gonna tell her? For some reason I feel nervous to tell her. Maybe it's because I'm so eager for her to be pleased about it that maybe I'd feel terrible if she didn't like it. I know why she wouldn't, but with my insecure mind any worry is possible. Taking a breath, I start to speak as though I'm presenting an award or something. You showed me your music box on Friday, right? And you said you don't know what the song was. I had to look around online to see if I could figure anything out. She only seems to grow more confused at my words. That'd be nearly impossible though, wouldn't it? There's no real way of telling where it comes from. That's what I thought. But when you opened the lid, there was something in there. What are you gonna say, man? For a second I feel bad about bringing up her blindness as an obstacle, but I swallow my guilt and press on, realize that I can't really explain this without mentioning it. You probably didn't notice this, but there was a word printed on the inside of the lid. Her puzzlement starts to give way to interest once I say this, and her eyes grow a little wider. A word? I had no idea. What was it? It said Venus. That's the only clue I had to go on. Venus. She trails off for a moment, her gaze drifting as she contemplates what I've told her. She seems pretty shocked to learn this new information about her beloved box, and I'm not surprised, everything considered. So what did you find? Does it mean anything? Actually, it does. Have you heard of the composer Gustav Holst? As I ask her, my fingers tighten slightly around the book in my hands, both excited and anxious about giving it to her. Holst? No, I don't think so. Must be someone my parents have never brought anything by. Must be something, sorry. Well, I take another breath to steady myself, trying not to anticipate her reaction too much. He did a set of pieces called The Planet Suite. The piece called Venus is... It's the one from your box. Haruka seems to be paused in time for a moment, almost as if she hadn't heard me, but I realize she's just processing what I said. The reality of my announcement must be taking a second to sink in. After a few seconds, she comes back to life. It's... So we know what it is? Yeah, here, I've got the book. I extend it towards her, placing it into her hands as she reaches it. Once she grasps it steadily, she runs a hand over the braille, reading the book's cover for herself. Every piece in the suite is in there, but Venus is the one you want. Did you even check the book to see if it didn't have any missing pages though? Influenced by my words, she opens the book and flips to the beginning of the Venus piece. After locating its contents section, she remains silent for another minute, simply reading the braille and marveling over it. I can play this. She tears her eyes from the book momentarily to look up, her gaze hitting my collar. Kakeru, you... This is so... I can't believe it. It seems as though she's somewhat overwhelmed by it all, and hoping that it won't tip her over some sort of edge, I ask her one more question. Would you like to hear it? She grows quiet again, apparently speechless. The highest piece is meant to be. I've got it on my phone, and I brought headphones. We can listen to it right now if you want. I downloaded it and put it onto my phone yesterday. After reserving the sheet music and organising this meetup, I couldn't just send it to her in a link. Yeah, exactly, or something like that. I figured she'd want to hear it as soon as she found out about it. It seems as though my hunch had been right, as she suddenly nods more eager than I've ever seen her. Yes, please. I give her the bag to put the book into, and she moves it out of the way so I can hand her some headphones. Lucky I found a splitter at the back of one of my drawers, meaning that we can both plug in and listen to it at the same time. Good old splitters. She puts the headphones in, her face displays so many simultaneous emotions I'm not sure how to read it, and I found my track on my phone. Ready? She takes a deep breath, as though something incredibly meaningful is about to happen, and I understand that to her, it really is. Yeah, my chest buzzing with something that I can't quite identify. I press play. Imagine if a completely different soundtrack is played here. That would be the ultimate troll move. The thing that washes over both of us is tangible. The first few notes make it abundantly clear that this is definitely the same melody that the music box plays. Venus, the bringer of peace. That's the piece's full title, and I can see why. The sound that graces our ears is very soft, lulling and gentle. It quickly creates a serene atmosphere that makes us feel almost cut off from the rest of the store. I watch Haruka as she takes it in, and the longer the piece plays, the more her smile grows. Her eyes shine with a powerful feeling, clasping her hands together tightly. She's almost like a lost child, meeting her real parents for the first time. Wow, this must mean a lot to her, and I feel my own lips carving into a smile just from looking at her, I guess. I've done something truly nice for someone, and that someone is my only friend. It feels... good. I can't explain it any further than that. I just feel good right now. As if to argument this feeling further, I feel a pressure of something touching my wrist and look down. Ah, that was it. Haruka's fingers are wrapped gingerly around the skin, warm and soft. I'm taken aback for a second, but we're so caught up in this peaceful, significant moment that oddly I don't jump. When I look up at her, I'm struck with a dense, not entirely identifiable feeling. She's looking me right in the eyes. Somehow, she's managed to find exactly where my face is. It's probably just a stroke of luck, as she's never done this before. For the first time in a month we've been friends, our eyes are completely locked onto each other. This is okay. Little tremors of nervousness run through me from being looked at so directly, but at the same time I'm comforted by the knowledge that she isn't really seeing me, and instead is simply trying to show me respect by facing me as accurately as she can. She squeezes my wrist ever so slightly, her already wide smile growing even further. Ah, that's wonderful. Thank you, Kakeru. Her eyes glisten as though she might cry, and though no tears actually fall, I'm still touched by the evident joy emanating from her whole being. Having never really made anyone happy in my life, I relish being able to think the words that flow from my mind, though I'm temporarily unable to speak them aloud. You're welcome, Haruka. Thank you. Ah, that's just wonderful. That really is wonderful. Chapter 2. Oh no! Is that really the ending of the demo? Like, is that... How far off the demo was I? Like, I've been through this game for a good an hour longer than I did in my original playthrough of the game, but was that really, like, the part of the game that was just the demo? And it's July too. What month were we in? Summer's truly upon us now, the rainy season's slowly giving way to bright, humid days. Ugh, humid days, I'm not looking forward to that. But I'm looking forward to warmer weather. A steady light streams in through the windows as I stride down the corridor, making my now very familiar journey to the music club room. It's funny how things have changed. At the beginning of last month, I was a complete shut-in, only appearing for classes and nothing else, and repeating the same day over and over for years. Now that summer is here, I'm a fully fledged member of the music club, having learnt all the pieces and played my part as best I can, working with what I consider to be a large group of students that I'd never seen before. The cherry on the cake is the fact I've actually managed to make a friend. Haruka and I are easier with each other than we were at the start, having shared our worries and concerns and spent many an hour together. I don't question the idea that we're friends now, it's just a given, having never really had that in my life before. It's a good feeling. True, I might still be that hopeless shut-in a lot of the time, but I've slowly started to branch out and do more things that I wouldn't have thought I was capable of originally, so I guess I could give myself a little more credit. Exactly, my man. Little steps. Yep, things aren't so bad right now. At the end of July, we'll be taking part in the end of year festival as usual. We'll need to use these next few weeks to focus on one song only to get practice up to perfection. So we better choose it today. What? No one told me about this when I joined the music club. Well then, this is time to put your practice into more extreme uses. I'll give you a couple of minutes to talk about it amongst yourselves and come to a consensus. Oh dear. As soon as he says this, everyone practically explodes into fervent chatter, evidently looking forward to his performance. Sitting here detached from them all, I feel my heart sinking and my stomach bubbling. Before I can even form any cohesive thoughts, Kudo-sensei strides up to me. Akane, I want things to be fair for you. I know you haven't been a member of this club for very long in comparison to most of the others, so I want our performance piece to be something that you're comfortable with. But it's the situation that you're putting him in. He lowers his voice somewhat, so that our conversation isn't broadcast to the whole room. Which pieces do you prefer from our list? I'm sure we'll be able to come to an agreement on one of them. I'm grateful for this consideration, but a performance on a stage? I've heard about the end of year festivals in passing, though I'm on several huge school-wide events that I never attend. Most clubs have to participate in some form or another as a way of celebrating and promoting the school's activities. However, since I've never been in a club until now, my absence has never been noticed. I've been able to completely bypass the festivals altogether. There's something that I've treasured over the years. This is just another test for you to try and overcome, dear Kakeru. Don't tell me that I've lost that freedom. It's not losing freedom, it's getting freedom. Sweating, I realise that I haven't answered Kudo-sensei yet. I can barely think straight, but for the purpose of getting him off my back and not holding things up for the moment, I let my brain formulate a response. Glider plead number 1, or L on the G string. Okay, not that confident with the speech, but I can understand why. It's very nerve-wracking. They're the pieces I find easiest to play. They're kind of slow though, so I'm not sure if the group will be willing to settle for either of them. Nevertheless, Kudo-sensei nods thoughtfully. Alright, I see. I'll bear that in mind. Noting the almost rowdy cacophony of sound that everyone's debating has now created, he strides back to the front of the room, signaling to the group in a relaxed but authoritative manner. They are all quieted down. He begins to ask for a show of hands for those in favour of each piece of the list, but I'm too rattled to listen properly. Come on, man. I feebly raise my hand for the 2 I'd mentioned, but other than that, I don't manage to concentrate on what anyone is saying after all. I just can't do this. I can't perform on a stage, putting myself on display, under the spotlight, with God knows how many people staring up at my condition. I physically shudder at the thought, craning myself to try to minimize it. This is not what I signed up for when I joined this music club. But not everything is down on paper when you join a club. Things advance over time. Kudo-sensei claps his hands, and it startles my consciousness back into the room. Alright, are we agreed then? Air on the G string? It's what I mentioned. I guess he probably coerced the group into choosing it for my benefit, though I don't hear a word of the conversation. Everyone hums and nods in unison, and Kudo-sensei looks satisfied. Good. That's sorted then. We'll only focus on that song from now on, so don't dedicate your free practice to much else. We've got weeks to sharpen our performance and really get it to a high standard. Speaking of which, with a flourish he produced his conductor's baton, sweeping his hair off his face with the other hand as theoretically as ever. Let's get started. Ready for a run through? The group responds by readying their instruments and nodding, a strange buzz in the air that isn't usually present, and awkwardly, I realise I need to do the same, scrambling to find the air with the G-string music among my books. I guess I've got to get on with this before I can think of anything further. It will not be as torturous as you make it out to be, my dear protagonist. Our dear protagonist. The group practice somewhat forces me to push my fears aside and simply concentrate on what I'm doing. Sometimes situations do that. It forces your fears to one side, but the forefront of you does not have those fears. But my nerves are still humming in my gut horribly in the background. We continue to play air on the G string several times until Kudo-sensei calls us to a halt. Now it'll be enough for now. We'll focus on the same thing now, so be sure to help each other during free practice if you need it. Go on, off you go. With that, the room breaks down into subgroups as usual, and I'm left somewhat adrift, unsure what to do with myself. Do I go to meet Haruka, or am I required to stay here and work with everyone as part of the group, now that we have a specific goal to achieve? This could be another opportunity for a multiple choice. Stay here and help the group, or go off and meet up with Haruka, which I am certain that she would understand if you are practicing one and only one piece. But let's continue. Kudo-sensei appears at my side again, apparently eager to talk to me once more, though he looks a little more concerned than last time. Akane, I realise you might not have known about this in advance. I'm sorry if I sprung the performance on you. You definitely have. That's considerate of him. How do you feel about it? Is it something that you can manage? I don't even know how to go about answering that question. Almost every cell in my body is silently screaming a big resounding hell nah. But I can't be that rude. Could have sense have been pretty good about making sure that I am as comfortable as I can be in this club, so I owe him something. I could say that I'll think about it, but I feel as though there isn't really time for me to hesitate. We have 4 weeks until the festival, and the group won't want to hang around for me while I take my sweet time deciding whether I'm going to join in or not. Unsure of everything, I waver for too long and miss my chance to speak. I feel quite happy with your progress since you've joined the club. You've definitely improved, Akane, and with a piece like Air on the G-String, I'm positive that you'll be able to pull off a good performance. His words are complimentary, but I still see some worry in his face as I glance briefly at him. I'm guessing he might be anticipating a refusal to perform, and as likely as that is, I don't want to let him down. Somehow. It's not called letting him down, it's choosing what is right for you. And what is going to be the right choice for you will not disappoint him. I'd feel like such a jerk just flat out running away from it. Still, I can't summon an answer from my whirling head, and Kuro-sensei seems to get the picture I'm not ready to reply just yet. You think about it for the rest of the day and give me your answer tomorrow. We need to get moving, but I can give you a day to consider it. Whew, at least he's granting me that, yeah. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. For a moment he looks as though he's about to lead me to it, but then pauses looking thoughtful. You've become quite good friends with Fujiwara by now, I see. That is correct. This is an unexpected turn in the conversation. I nod in response. I'd be interested to see her performance. He trails off, seeming to be wrestling with something in his mind, and whether to say it or not, in the end he comes out with it. She's never performed at the festival, despite having been in the music club for several years. She always tells me that she'll do a solo performance, and then loses her nerve and pulls out just before the festival takes place. Nerves kicking in. But the main difference this time around is that Haruka has a friend to shoulder onto. Haruka has mentioned this to me fleetingly in the past. She always preferred to attempt to perform solo rather than in a group. From what she said, she generally tries to work herself up to performing it every year and practices like mad, but is always balked before crunch time. It's a shame because she's a great musician, and I can see that this repeated withdrawal has taken a toll on Kudo-sensei. It technically goes against the club's rules, as it's mandatory for all members to participate. Ouch, that seems to suggest to me that I almost don't have a choice in whether I'm going to perform or not. Although he hasn't outright said it, it's being considerate. I suppose I've given her the benefit of the doubt due to her circumstances. I understand that it can't be easy. But, however, I'm wondering if you might be able to change things, Akane. Right, so we have ourselves probably the same multiple choice outcome or scenario, but it's taken on a different form. Would it be the factor of going to the music club room like before, or staying here and helping the club? But now that's changed from, are you going to not persuade, but mention the information to her and then sort of give her words of encouragement so that then she can make the decision for herself? Me? What's he expecting me to do? As her only friend, this could be a special opportunity for the both of you to shine. Since the two of you are somewhat close, I was hoping that you might be up to asking Fujiwara if she'll join the group performance with you. Ah, 2 birds with 1 stone here. If the two of you are comfortable with each other, then it might make joining the assemble feel a little more agreeable. He says this as though musing to himself, clearly unsure whether it would work, but still poses it to me as a question. I mean, I guess I can see his point. I do feel at my most relaxed while performing when I'm practicing with Haruka. If she feels the same, then it might just take a slight edge off the terror of being in a group for both of us. if we can still work together and back each other up. Even still, I'm not sure how she'd respond, and I still have no idea what to think about this whole thing myself, sorry. Anyway, it's all a bit too sudden and daunting at the moment. Kudo-sensei looks at me somewhat regretfully, as though he feels bad about asking. I don't mean to put you in an awkward position, Akane, but if it's not too much, I'd appreciate it if you could talk to her about it. She is a good flutist, from what I've heard. It'd be a shame to let that go unnoticed. That I can agree with. Want to at least give him something, I nod. I'll ask her. And he goes back to smiling. There we go. That's the Kudo-sensei we know. He visibly relaxes at my words, seeming relieved. Ah, thank you, Akane. Good to know I can count on you. I'm not entirely sure about that. If you can be relied upon, then that means you've taken a step forward from your shell to being a beautiful butterfly. Alright, off you go. Thanks. Nodding thanks, he turns away and I realise that I'm free at last. Bundling up my books into my arms, I leave a mass of students behind, and though this part of my day should be relatively normal, I can't help but feel very unsettled. Okie dokie then, let us continue forward. Hey! I emit the word quietly as I close the door behind me, heading over to the piano. Hey, you okay? Her reply had been... Oh, she must have been listening. This is why she's looking downcast. Her reply had been just as downcast as mine. It caused me to halt for a moment, turning to look back at her. Though she seems relatively composed as always, there's a hint of something troubling in her expression. You okay? She hesitates a little before responding. Yeah, I guess it's just the club. I see. It started festival preparations, hasn't it? Sensing her trepidation, I nod grimly to myself, realizing that we're probably both just as scared. Yeah, neither of us speak for a moment, lost in our worries, but then Haruka pipes up quietly. Kudo-sensei pulled me aside earlier and gave me another lecture about joining the group. He does it every year. That makes it even more awkward for me to ask the question on his behalf. I guess he figured I might be able to change her mind in his place since we're friends. But I said no. I know he doesn't like it, but I just don't fit in with the group. It does put more pressure on me, but I'd rather try to do it alone. Kakeru, this is where you can help. Well, not help her, but motivate her. In some ways, this is where you shine and where you're, quote-unquote, putting her in your debt. A sort of bleak acceptance comes over her, and I get the idea that she's used to feeling like this. I prefer to play a piece I really love that I've chosen myself as opposed to just going along with whatever everyone else wants to. It just feels better that way. But what have you told Haruka, Kakeru, that the piece that you chose, or the group chose, is one that Kakeru himself said that he would prefer playing? I do understand her viewpoint, although I can also get why Kudo-sensei is persistently dedicated to trying to persuade her to join the group too. I guess both sides have silver linings, as well as drawbacks. Nothing in life, no matter how good it looks, is without consequence. Haruka looks towards me, visibly trying to cheer herself up a little, and evidently wanted to shift the conversation somewhat. Anyway, I'm going to try to do a solo performance like I always do. What about you? Would you ever feel comfortable performing in front of an audience? But if you're together with the rest of a group, that means that the attention from the audience is divided by how many people there are there. It's not just that one person or that other person. It's a collaboration of different students. For me personally, I would much rather be in a group performance than a solo performance. I feel like there's a duality here between what I've forgotten her name now, Haruka is saying. Like, you prefer to do a solo performance, but yet you're the only person who's seen that solo performance, the only person that is on stage doing that solo performance, but you still get the same amount of audience, but the attention is divided by one. which is the same number. I feel my mind beginning to drown in a tsunami of doubt. I'm not sure I could do it. It's pretty terrifying. Although I guess in the group, there'd be less emphasis on me specifically. I'm glad you picked up on that. That's pretty much the only plus that I'm holding on to whilst I'm trying to figure out my feelings about all of this. In the group, I'm only one of 16 people, so that's less than 10% of focus on you. Nearly 5%. Between 5 and 10%. 6 and 7? Possibly. So I have that slight buffer of everyone else around me. People won't be staring at me alone. Exactly. I wonder if whoever's in charge of organising things would position the piano so that yeah, because it needs to be so that your seat is on the right side and the piano's on further in the middle or further to the left, because the condition is on this way, so therefore if I'm facing this way, then the condition is not visible. I sigh at my own pathetic wishes. I can't get out people pondering to me that much. But it's just changing where the piano is. It's not pondering, it's just making it so that it's more comfortable. And also, it's doing the same thing at the end of the day. It's not all about me. I just don't know. I have no idea what to tell Kudo-sensei. Haruka nods throughout my scattered sentences, her expression compassionate. I get it. Only you can tell if you'd be able to do it. The only thing I'd say is that if you do want to perform deep down, then I think that's important. If you have an ambition, then it's worth at least trying to make it happen. Indeed. She seems a little sheepish at telling me this, and smiles awkwardly. If you don't feel that way, then that's fair enough. I just wouldn't want you to deny yourself a chance to try something you'd like to do. That's thoughtful of her, and I see her point. If performing a piece on stage was something that I really wanted to do, then this is the perfect opportunity. I just can't say I've ever had that ambition, or at least I've never really thought about it. You know, you could even ask to... No. That would not make me feel better. That would make me feel worse. I guess I could, but I don't think Kudo-sensei would be happy about it. And I'm not sure I could picture myself playing alone any easier than I can playing with the group. Although I suppose I could play whatever I wanted then and pick the easiest piece. No, it's not about picking the easiest. It's picking one that's on your skill level. Ugh, this is too much. I just can't deal with it right now. I'll have to think about it. I don't know if there's like a gating mechanism here, depending on previous choices. Like, there could be like only one avenue you can go through, in which you can then select a choice here. Haruka nods, understanding my mental distress, and lets the subject lie to my relief. However, as I'm thinking of what to do next, I'm stuck with the awkward responsibility of posing Kudo-sensei's question to her once again. I guess I should just get it out of the way while we're still somewhat on the topic. If I was in the group, do you think you'd like it more? Now that is a good question. A very good question. I don't like it as soon as I said it, but I can't reword it now. I just mean, you know, it might feel better if we play together in it. Haruka doesn't seem offended, thankfully, but answers how I expected she might. It might. I do like practicing with you, but I think it's better because we're alone. Not always necessarily. Okay, yeah, it is necessarily, but I don't think it is predominantly just that. I figured as much. Yeah, although they've decided on playing air on the G string, so at least it's not too hard. Your flute sounds nice on the lead line when we practice it. You probably fit in pretty well with... Oh dear. I paused, my mouth hanging open mid-word. I hadn't expected her to cut me off so bluntly. I guess I overstepped a line. She festers for a moment in what seems like somewhat masked annoyance, and her silence hangs over us for a solid few seconds before she softens. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you, but it just so happened that you did. She seems genuinely apologetic, and through her abruptness had surprised me. I'm not offended. It's okay. I've just got my own way of doing things. I'd rather not work with the group. It's alright. Sorry, I won't bring it up again. She fidgets, shooting me an awkward smile in an attempt to lighten the mood. It's okay. The two of us hover in place, unsure on how to move things along from this slightly difficult moment. But then she managed to turn the conversation more pleasant again. Anyway, if you do go with the group, I can still help you practice air on the G-string like we usually do. That's nice of her, considering that she'll be busy practicing whatever she's going to play. Thanks. I'm not that great, but if you need any help too, just ask. I'm not sure that I really have much to offer in return, but the suggestion's there anyway. She nods, and thankfully the atmosphere begins to go back to normal again. The first kind of crack within their friendship in a way. Do you know what you'll play? I'm not sure. There are a few options, to be honest. I'm so excited about learning Venus, I hate to ignore it and work on something else. She says this with a hint of humour, and we both smile. From the moment I introduced her to the real piece behind the music box melody, she's been laser focused on learning it. However, it's not been very long since then, so she hasn't had the chance to get very far. I can already tell that she'd love to choose it as a performance piece, but the fact that it's so new to her makes that difficult. I'm sure you'll find a way with your musical talents. She nods, humming in amusement, and then we give in to the warning of the clock ticking above us, and put our conversation aside to practice with what time we have left. Okie dokie. This is getting quite... I feel like this is going to take a turn south at some point. Not as in like it's going to be a bad game, but the situation in the game is going to turn south, or sour, in some way. And I feel like their friendship is going to split apart somehow, but then reform back together again in some ways when one of them realizes the error of their way. Okay, the two of us are packing our things away and getting ready to leave when, to our collective dismay, an unexpected knock comes. Oh, Kudo-sensei. It swings open to reveal Kudo-sensei, who strides into the room somewhat apologetically. Sorry to disturb you two. I think I left some sheet music in here from earlier today. Really? Having initially bustled in fear at Kudo-sensei's arrival, Haruka relaxes upon hearing his voice, going back to sorting out her bag. He crosses the room toward me, scanning the top of the piano until he comes across a book sitting on the back of it. I had noticed it when I first sat down but ignored it, and it hadn't belonged to me or Haruka. Ah, there it is. As he leans across to grab the book, he turns to me, jerking his head towards Haruka with a questioning glance. He's evidently taken advantage of her lack of sight to visibly ask me whether I've been successful in persuading her to join the group or not. Yeah, it's gonna be something that only you can do. That's pretty sneaky of him. In fact, he's not usually forgetful enough to leave. He's done this on purpose, hasn't he? He's definitely done this on purpose. He hasn't mistakenly left it in here. But because Haruka can't see his smirky look, it is visibly apparent that he's did this on purpose. Once to be honest, I shake my head knowing that he'll be disappointed. As expected, his expression drops somewhat, and he nods back silently with a knowing smile, obviously having anticipated such an answer. However, he quickly fixed his usual cheery grin back onto his face. Thanks! As if nothing had happened, he marches out of the room in his regular peppy manner, leaving me feeling a little guilty and Haruka none the wiser. He scared me for a minute then. That's the second time he's burst in here today. The second time? Why twice? Okay, that's pretty bizarre. Why twice? I emit a vague laugh, and the two of us finish getting ourselves ready and head out. I know you could say that the first time was to put the book there, but something else hangs in the air. Okay, once we're out in the late afternoon glow, Haruka turns to me as usual, although there's something a little different about her demeanor. Kakeru, when you were talking about me playing in the group, did Kudo-sensei ask you to? Yes, otherwise we would not have asked her about it. It doesn't make me feel great to admit it. Yes, sorry. He mentioned it to me just before I showed up. She nods, seeming as though she'd been suspecting it all along. It's okay, I had a feeling. I guess he thought he had a new way of trying to convince me. Oh dear, she smirks, so I relax a little, knowing that she's not angry at me. I'm still going to try and perform, even if he doesn't like how I'm doing it. That is the problem though, because part of the performance is ensuring that the group is in sync. And if you're performing solo, then that sync is going to be next to impossible to sync with each other. The statement is pretty bold for someone who's never actually managed to stay true to their word yet, but for some reason, the determination is somewhat typical of Haruka in a way that I can't really put my finger on. Do you think you'll really do it this year? She pauses, contemplating my question seriously, and though there's a hint of woe in her eyes, she nods as she speaks. I've always wanted to play for people, ever since I've started learning the flute. I know some people must think it sounds silly coming from me, but it's just been my goal for a long time. The dream she's kept trying to follow. We've talked about it before, and I have no doubt that her wish will make it come true. It's just as strong now as it had been when she'd first felt it. It's just, listening to music really moves me. I'd love to be able to do that for others. So that's what she loves about it most, making a connection with people through music, and being able to speak to them without using words. That sounds just like Haruka, and to be honest, I feel a little inspired by her. I've never really taken much notice of the people around me, but there's something about Haruka that I admire when she talks about music like this. I'm sure you can do it. I tell her this because I feel relatively confident that it's true to some extent. She puts so much significance into performing that I'm sure anyone listening would enjoy it. It's just up to her nerves and whether she feels able to make that move. She blushes slightly, seeming bashful. I hope so. I'll cheer you on. She giggles softly. Thanks. We grow quiet for a moment, then she speaks up again. I'll be rooting for you too, if we do decide to try it. I guess Kudo-sensei will probably be wanting an answer tomorrow. Oh, goodness sakes. Are you psychic? Or maybe you just put it in intuition here. Yeah, you're right. I acknowledge the fact gloomily, not enjoying the reminder I'm going to have to riddle this thing out once and for all tonight. Whatever you decide, just make sure that you're happy about it. Yeah, well, I'll see you tomorrow then. Pulling myself back out of my heavy thoughts, I focus on seeming normal. There's no such thing as normal. Yeah, see you at the club. She nods with a smile as we turn away, heading in opposite directions. Oh no, I can't concentrate. Okay, we're gonna pick things up in the next time, folks. Man, I am feeling that something really bad is going to happen for our two characters, and it's either going to split them as friends and then they'll come back together, or it's just gonna split their friendship outright. Like, that's what I'm thinking right now. I don't want it to come to that, but these kind of stories always have this kind of thing, and life has that kind of thing as well. You know, you make a friend, you spend a lot of time with that friend, and then either by through actions or by the situation that you're both in your lives, you just naturally grow apart from each other. But I feel like this is not going to be a natural grow apart from each other because of the fact that these two only have each other as friends. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and see you all in the next time of Venus Improbable Dream. I am very excited to see what happens next, for better or for worse, for these characters. It's the story and the context that really matters, and that is why I love visual novels, is because they present stories in such a way which takes away all the action that, let's say, FPS games have, or games which require a lot of button mashing has, like, I don't know, Dragon Ball Z, those sort of games. Nah, that's not for me. I prefer story through words, and you're able to take away those words and form your own conclusions from it. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and take care of yourselves.